Hello and welcome to the Lollipop Cake Supplies YouTube channel. My name is Rachel and today I will be showing you how to use our new cake shape guides. So our cake shape guides are something that we've just brought out recently. These can be used as ganache boards, they can be used to put on naked cake to cut out certain shapes, or like we're going to do today, they can be used with buttercream or ganache to create a shape with your icing. So we have a few different shapes. We are also more than happy to cut certain shapes if you have sizes or particular things in mind. Some of the ones we offer at the moment, we have a unicorn head in a number of different sizes. This one's a 10-inch. We also have a love heart with the center heart cut out. These can be super cute. You can set them on their sides and have your cake sitting up. Very, very cute, these ones. Obviously can also be used as a whole heart. We do also offer whole hearts as well. And this little guy is a rounded heart. This actually suits the Mondo heart tins that we have perfectly. So if you have an 8-inch tin, this is the perfect board to give you that little bit extra around your sides for your buttercream, and that matches your 8-inch tin. And then we also have the 6-inch boards to match the 6-inch tin as well. So there are 100 million different ways to do this. Everyone has a different way that they prefer. This is just how I like to do it. It's not right or wrong. It's just how I feel confident. So we are going to be making the 6-inch scallops today. I have seen some of these done as beautiful 2-tier cakes and using your scalloped tier as the bottom with a smooth tier on top, and it honestly looks incredible. So I've also used the cake cream to do this. I have tried this with over the top and it's just a little too thick for this to work well. So I've opted for cake cream, which is a Swiss meringue mix. It is incredible. It is so easy. It is so fast. You don't need eggs, which at the moment is a wonderful thing. And we are using the golden yellow today. We do have another 20 or so colors, including white, which is your stark white, and then like a natural white as well that you can color yourself. There are a few ways to do this. Today, I'm going to be doing this with baking paper. You can also wrap your guides in cling wrap, and that way when you're pulling them off your cake, all you need to do is remove the guide from the cling wrap and then you can just peel the cling wrap straight off. You do get a cleaner finish. As you can imagine, trying to cling wrap this shape is a nightmare. So we're not going to do that. The way that I'm going to do these is I've got some baking paper here and I'm just going to trace around the outside of these. Now I have the outlines, you probably can't see that, but I have the outlines of my guides on here, and what I'm actually going to do is cut ever so slightly just inside of those lines. So I'm talking maybe like 3-4 centimeters absolute most, because we want it to mostly cover our guide, but we want that little bit around the outside just so it sticks well to that buttercream and you're not going to have any slippage. Alrighty, so I very roughly cut these out. What I'm now going to do, I've got my board ready to go. We want to secure our guide to the board. So I'm just gonna add teensiest little bit of buttercream, just so he doesn't move around. You can use either side of your guide for this. I am going to put it matte side down with our logo facing down on the board and the shiny side up. Doesn't really matter if it's perfectly straight because we're going to take it off the board and flip it anyway at the end. Now what we're going to do is just add a teensy bit of buttercream in a couple of different places just so we can get that baking paper to stick. All right, beautiful. The trick here is to pop your buttercream onto the board rather than on the cake, because this is going to be the top of your cake. So the more we lather and smooth this out, the smoother your cake will be. So I'm just mixing this a little bit to get some air bubbles out so it's nice and smooth. And I'm gonna whack this on the board. I'm gonna do it relatively thick, just in case I need to take some off after I take the board off. I'm gonna make sure this goes out, right out to all of the edges, all 500 of them. And then we're just gonna smooth that out a little bit. I'm just gonna push down ever so slightly again, just to kind of make sure that there's no air pockets or bubbles. All right, now what I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna grab my chilled cake. Make sure your cake is chilled, because if your cake is too soft, you will have some issues. All right. Just gonna lift him off the board. Gently place him in the middle. We're going to put some buttercream on this board, just to make sure that that baking paper has nowhere to go. Pop our baking paper on there like so. Make sure it's nice and firm. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. All right, now we're going to cover the board in buttercream. Alrighty. And I'm just gonna pop him on top. Make sure he's nice and centered and flat. Flat is also quite important. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a spatula and just make sure my edges are lining up before I add anything else. So you wanna make sure that your indents are lining up with each other, otherwise your scallop's gonna be not very scallopy. We want to fill in the edges of our cake. So this is the same way you would do it normally, but we kind of just wanna add a little bit extra because it needs to come out to where those curves are. Alrighty, so I've covered her as best I can, and all we're gonna do now is very gently scrape around the guides slowly and just get rid of a little bit of that excess buttercream. And just make sure that we are scraping your buttercream off as you go, so you're not dragging anything. I'm just gonna hold the top of the board as I do this, finding it a little bit easier, but do whatever works for you. Now this is only our first scrape, so it will be a little bit rough, but that's completely fine. You can do this as many times as you want. I wouldn't recommend doing it too many times. I have been that person before, and I find that once you get it to a place where it's good, if you keep going, you'll go back down to it being crappy, because you're just trying to perfect it and you keep making it worse. So just get it to good and be happy with that, because you can always fix up holes afterwards. So she's a bit rough. What we're gonna do now is just go around the sides and fill in those gaps, those places where there wasn't enough buttercream and those big holes, and we're just gonna push in a little bit to try and get rid of those air bubbles as well. All right, and for a third and final time, I swear, I'm gonna go around this very slowly, very gently, and just take off that additional icing I've just added. All right, what we're gonna do now is get this into the fridge. We want it to set quite hard before we start to take these guides off. Otherwise, you're going to have slippage or your buttercream's gonna pull. So we want this to be nice and set before we try and separate those two layers. So into the fridge for a couple of hours, and then we will try and pull these guides off. So I've just taken this out of the fridge here, super firm, ready to go. Again, this top side at the moment will end up being the bottom of our cake. So we're gonna take this off first. What you want is something nice and sharp and pokey, just to get in between that initial layer of the buttercream and where that baking paper is sitting, just so we can separate that nicely. So I'm just gonna go in, I'm gonna find my back of the cake. There's always a back. I think here. I'm just gonna slide this in between until I get that pull. Right. I'm just going to now go in underneath and slowly lift her up. Now, I'm not sure if you saw that, but we've actually pulled off some of that buttercream. Again, this is completely fine, because this is our bottom. So I'm just gonna peel off that baking paper and take my buttercream and pop that down here. That'll also just make sure that our cake sticks nicely to our board once we flip this. All right, I have the board that we're going to be sitting our cake on in my hands now. So what we want to do is pop this on top, as in the center as you can get it. And flip it. Mildly scary, but I'm sure it'll be fun. All right, flipping in 1, 2, 3. There we go. Alrighty. Now, before I take this top board off, I'm actually just gonna go around with the scraper and clean up these little edges that just need a little bit of love. Because this is our top of the cake, we want this to be as clean as possible. So I'm gonna grab some hot water and I'm going to sit the knife in the hot water for a couple of seconds just to heat it up so that it glides between that board and the baking paper nicely without pulling off any of that icing. Just make sure you wipe off any of the excess water. You don't want that in your buttercream. And again, I'm just gonna start on my back side. Just in case, we're just gonna slide this under. Heating that up every couple of seconds. Now, I'm just gonna try and get in between the board, baking paper here. Another way you can do it, doing this with ganache, Our lovely Heather has discovered this method and is obsessed with it, but what you can do is heat up a frying pan or a tray and sit it on top of your board, or your guide I should say, and what that does is the heat will melt that top layer and just help you get that board off that little bit easier. There we go. So what we need to do now is just pull off our baking paper. And she's a little bit rough, so what I'm actually going to do is fill in the holes on my top, and then once again just go around the edges very lightly and try and keep it as clean as possible. Alrighty, and there we have it. That is how to use our scalloped cake shape guides to make a buttercream cake. Like and subscribe. Okay.
Oh god.
I really don't like this. This is weird. Okay. This is the longest start ever. Obviously cut this. Just think, popping your buttercream as far out to the edge that you can, and first. Alrighty, and there you go. That is the short version of how to make the, short version.